Introducing the next level of 7th seal codes, the Lost St. Germain code.
Welcome, Methuselah Imhotep here with an introduction to the 7th seal material, focusing in on the 7th seal activation, the Golden Age transformation. My journey, work, and spiritual path has been most exciting and rewarding. It really started for me when I was a kid and knew there was something significant about the constellation of Orion. Then, when I was 17 years old, I wanted to learn more about ESP and the abilities of being psychic, which I was experiencing. So I went to the bookstore and into the New Age section, and while looking for a book, one actually moved off the bookshelf and dropped to my feet. I was like, how did this book just ghost off the shelf? So I obviously got the message that this was the book to buy and read. It was Jane Roberts on psychic abilities in ESP. This led me to reading all the Seth material. I finally had a friend that understood what I was thinking about. You create your own reality. At the age of 19, I saw a flyover of the Great Pyramids on TV, and I knew I had a connection to them. My real journey began in this moment. What also started at the age of 17 was the number synchronicity of 1122. I would have an epiphany and be jotting my thoughts down in my journal and look at the time to date and timestamp it, and there was 1122 on the clock. This happened many times. It ended up that I would sense when this number was present and look, either at the clock or a license plate, etc., and there it was. Even the TV show The X-Files had it a few times, which had me thinking, who knows about this time code anyway? Over the next 10 years of my life, this number series, 1122, and actually my birthday, 522, would show up all the time, even in the most incredible ways that made my head spin. My most profound experience happened when I was working at the DIA shortly after the Pentagon when I was 25 years old. It was at this time that the month of November rolled around, and I had the most powerful activation.
This is a very auspicious month. This is a very auspicious
November
month.
1st,
this is
the
a very
energy starts
auspicious
to build
month.
up to the alignment of the stars and the temple complex on the 22nd. The energy would get stronger, and the number sighting frequency increased as the date of 1122 approached. The actual day of was so strong that my body shook. This went on for 10 years, until I finally ended up in the Great Pyramid on November 22nd in 1998. It was incredible. This was the time that Edgar Cayce said the high priest would return to Egypt. David Wilcock and I had some discussions about my experiences, connections to him, Cayce, and the Great Awakening not that long ago. My life has been full of divine orchestration, including meeting a time traveler who told me about how we would reset the super clock 6 times in an attempt to get this time period right. These experiences all led me to crack my own Da Vinci Code, which took about 20 years to fully galvanize. I did end up in Egypt twice, each time having the most bizarre experiences, again with the number in my face all over the place. One such experience was being recognized by the head guard of the Great Pyramid. I had never met him before, or had been to Egypt yet in my physical body. I've even been on a mothership consciously awake in my physical form. There are so many fascinating stories, but to stick to the planned delivery here, we're focused on the cosmic awakening and the activation of the 7th seal. My work around remembering my lifetimes in Egypt as a key figure in the mystery schools came flooding back to me clearer and clearer. When I was in Egypt particularly, I got a lot of downloads along with access to knowledge that explained many things, and inner knowledge, which included the bigger reason the 3 pyramids match the belt stars of Orion. It is as if I was downloaded with a phrase. Decode the clues and the meta-wisdom will unfold and fit together like a puzzle. Some people may ask why. Why are the belts aligned to the pyramids? Over the years, the Orion alignment has become fairly well known, but the real reason for it has not yet been fully explained, until now. The Giza complex is many things, certainly a mystery for many thousands of years, let alone the greatest feat and marvel upon the planet. From my knowledge and perspective, it's a clock and a calendar and an energy device and an initiation chamber. among several other things, which I could expound upon, but my time is limited, as you know, and this is essentially an introduction to volumes of material. I've gained deep insight into a master plan and divine orchestration, which I will do my best to share a good, strong through, but in this brief talk. The part we will focus on the most is the aspect of the seventh seal. The 7 temples along the Nile, which focused on the 7 chakras, and in the final initiation at the Great Pyramid. The temples also had an alignment to the stars, which imbued the students with what was called Sa, a cosmic life force. When the stars aligned to the temple, this energy streamed in. The star map I created in 1996 revealed that the Great Pyramid has star energies streaming and being channeled into the sarcophagus from the Pleiades and Sirius systems. I also found a location of a secret temple, which was the location for the Pleiades on the ground. My friend Larry Hunter and I found the one for Sirius in 1997 by following the knowledge of the star mapping methods. I even did the map on the left and charted the longitude and latitude, gave him the coordinates of the 0 point, and when he went to Egypt, he mapped it and went there, and it was exactly where the coordinates that I had given him directed him. It is little known that the Sphinx has demarcations for the time location of the solstice equinox events, which its gaze is focused on. The Egyptians watched the sacred time events according to their advanced knowledge of the stars. It becomes most interesting to realize the Sphinx has 2 additional lines that only were referenced to as 14 degrees above and 14 degrees below, which were here and here. I knew there were special events at these locations. My soul cried out, "Remember," and I indeed have proven. They are the Silver Gate and the Golden Gate. My birthday, 5/22 and 11/22, respectively. I was blown away. What was so important? Why align and point at these regions of the sky? Aside from what science is showing us, there is much more. Pointing became a key sign. One of the ancient names for Egypt means point or pointer. It's Hepti. The 7th seal activation, the Golden Gate alignment, and our journey into the photon beam as the graduation or awakening into the Golden Age, that's what's being pointed at. This is extremely profound, considering this time was foreseen and was so important to preserve and still be able to be communicated thousands of years in the future. So this message was recorded in stone in several ways. The one thing that would last long enough to tell the story in the future. Keys can be found throughout all ancient stories as symbols and geometric engrams designed to trigger memory and activate dormant DNA. Here we can see the symbols on the top of the wall with the man pointing. Pointing the way is encoded around the Jesus story too. The return of Christ will come with signs, and he will return in the clouds. All point to the sky and astrotheological markers. Orion rising over the pyramids in the clouds, where the book of Enoch says, "I will place a sign in the heavens, and it shall be a faithful witness between me and them forever." Needless to say, I was astonished that all the signs added up and the numbers matched, as we shall see, and glimpse in this, and more revealed in the book material. The book and increased synchronicity is astonishing, and my experience of it and those that have read have had increased synchronicity, but at all points, very specifically, had a message. One core aspect of the message is the return of the goddess, the balance of the male and the female, the heart-mind unity, as key codes echoed throughout. This message was so paramount that it was painstakingly encoded into many other things as well, including our English language. There are many pillars of codes that erect this sacred temple. We will only glimpse a few examples in this introduction. I've found over 150 plus key codes, key words, which emphasize the message of the grand story. This is a sample of what some of that would look like. I have cracked the code on the core Christ model. There are many facets of this divine gem, which reflect many layers of hidden wisdom, and everything is pointing to this time, the final activation of the 7th seal. Every aspect of the entire grand story or master plan actually has a number-coded sequence that underlies the picture with hidden wisdom. Sir Francis Bacon and his Shakespeare pen pals not only finalize the spelling of key words in the English language, which carry frequency and numerological values that point to the golden keys. They edited the King James Bible and encoded clues and keys there as well. The cover of the original Bible had a headpiece that was created by Bacon. That is a masterful work of mystery art, also known as an isosepia, or mystery picture, containing hidden wisdom. These engrams of sorts are a combination of the wisdom of numerology and sacred geometry and the corresponding frequencies as the sublime divine codes. Hidden. Each picture tells a story. Each part reveals a deeper hidden truth. Esoteric wisdom in picture form and encoded in written form was Bacon's expertise, as he essentially invented in his time cryptograph, ciphers, and encryption. For example, Moses was taught in all the high wisdom of Egypt, is what it states in Acts 7:22. 7 divided by 22 is 3.14 pi, and the date of the feast of Mary Magdalene. All key things in the greater story and wisdom for the Golden Age. Pythagoras and many ancients have stated that numbers are what make up all the universe, and deeply understood hidden messages, such as gematria. It is very interesting to see all the connections light up throughout the material and reality at large when one views life through this lens. It's very interesting to see all the connections light up throughout the material, especially that Sir Francis Bacon faked his death and became Saint Germain, who went on to accomplish many great things, including starting the Freemasons and the Rosicrucian order, where he embedded the wisdom for oral consumption. The headpiece, which carries several of the secrets of these orders. One of the pillars of the esoteric number sequences is 156, the word that emphasizes the Merkaba. The most important is the knowledge of the Grand Cross, and these values for these names that have been encoded to tell the story also add up to 156. These fixed signs, which also reveal 522 and 1122 as the cusps, are very much deep keys to the ascension. This is the hidden cross behind the Vatican as the X or sun rays, which is the real power in the deeper concealed truth when understood fully. The ancients knew many things about the grand golden age that would happen not far past the new millennium's edge. When you have all the key codes, everything comes into focus. Celestial events, divine alignments, and the frequency of the key codes awakening humanity. The Vatican tried to control the truth and keep it from the populace. Nostradamus has several quotrons about this unveiling of wisdom and the time of awakening. Much more detail is outlined in my books and videos. However, it's most astonishing, especially the Grand Cross wheel in the center, the two interlocking crosses. This picture here is an isopsophia that has all the key ingredients of this astro-theological grand story hidden within it. I could probably talk for at least 30 minutes straight about all the key ingredients. Everything that I have discovered, and in some cases remembered and guided to fully recall, are about awakening consciousness through the ancient story and the knowledge of the mystery school teachings. Zooming in, one of the interesting things about this picture is the reflecting pool, like the one in Washington, D.C., where the Founding Fathers preserved aspects of this understanding concerning the alignment of stars, and particularly that of the constellation of Orion, as it aligns to the Washington obelisk on key dates, which is evidence of this deeper understanding at the core of the Renaissance Freemason, where Bacon concealed these deeper understandings. In ancient Egypt, the pool and the temples were built in alignment to its stars, as well as with the materials of that sign of the zodiac. The Sa energy was transferred to the water that grew the crops and watered the livestock, i.e. lambs. At special alignment times, a feast was done, preparing and eating the lamb meat and drinking the water. This ritual was taught to Abraham by Melchizedek and became the eat my body and drink my blood of the Christians. Several of the ancient texts, including the Emerald tablets, state the same type of phrasing. When the two become one, or as above, so below. These key phrases add up to the sacred pillar numbers and sequences. In light of time, we're going to now focus down into the greater crown jewel of the seventh seal activation. This is also all about the knowledge and wisdom of the letters and numbers and their sequences that trigger open the seals in our bodies, which opens higher levels of divine consciousness. Opening the book with 7 seals is a manifold reference. My 2 decades of research have revealed many shards of truth about the process of ascending consciousness into higher levels of awareness. I've written 3 books so far, and am now on my 4th, emphasizing all that defines these greater mysteries. Exposure to this material, along with the key frequency codes, awaken and activate higher levels of consciousness, and speeds up and expands synchronicity, which results in the same. The time now is very auspicious because the Golden Age and Golden Gate, which occurred last year on 11/22, has way to the 7th and final Golden Age, which is also known as the activation of the 7th seal upon the planet. Who's heard about the trumpets going off in the sky around the world? Whatever the cause, perhaps seers saw this in the future as a sign of the times. We've been told to watch for the signs in the Bible. Certainly we've seen many. The 6th seal was opened 2 Easters ago, when it was Easter the world over on the same day. I've also decoded many things in Revelations that the key to the more ancient prophecy of the Golden Age refers to. Revelation speaks of a book with 7 seals, which will be opened in the end times, revealing the wisdom that was kept secret. Daniel was told to close the book up and seal it. The lore about the phoenix rising has its roots in Egypt. Did you know that the region of the sky that has Orion in the middle is referred to as the phoenix? Orion is pointing or shooting his arrow at the bull of Taurus. However, if you draw a line over the bull's head and through the horns, it hits the mark with the golden gate cusp of Scorpio and Sagittarius. The bow and arrow symbols show up in several key places as hints at the bullseye. The sacred leg has many hidden elements that tie everything together. More on that later. The man who stands on the cusp across from Orion, who is the twin brother, rests his foot upon the back of the scorpion, highlighting 11/22, is none other than Ophiuchus. He is guarding the gate and the wisdom to access it. The snake, as many know, is a symbol of goddess wisdom, Sophia, Kundalini energy, essentially the life force that awakens and enlightens. The half-man and half-horse, Chiron, who is a centaur, is the one who is teaching the young man at his side. This is none other than Asclepius or Hermes, who further passes on the hidden wisdom of ascension. Again, bow and arrow, showing the way to hit the bullseye. The scorpion who transforms into the eagle or the phoenix is the glyph that represents the transition into higher forms. The whole grand story is told in picture form, and all the numbers complete the perfect number series. It's a super isosepia. The message of this entire mystery story is replete all over ancient history. The deeper understanding and the wisdom of frequency healing, advanced technology, etc. is understood more completely with the entire scope of the number keys of the sacred geometry and the meta wheel of astrology. This material and understanding becomes the master toolbox of the metamechanics of the universe, literally the tools to ascension. As we wield them, we command our divine birthright as co-creator. Enoch was taught by Uriel concerning the wisdom of the cycles of the seasons, and that the understanding of these command powers over the earthly dominion. It becomes very interesting to understand what the fallen angels taught mankind. Apparently, according to the book of Enoch, their only real downfall was teaching man all the secrets of heaven too soon. When you look at the details of the 7th heaven that Enoch visited, it becomes clear he was visiting the Ancient of Days in ancient Egypt, and was God's scribe for teaching the wisdom of the grand clock calendar and the divine source code to humanity. The 7th heaven is essentially 7 high mountains, the star temple locations of Orion. It's stated in Enoch, I beheld higher than all the mountains of the earth, from which fire or light proceeds, while days, seasons, and years depart and pass away. Those of you that have followed the Flower of Life teachings recall Drummond talked about humanity waking up as the consciousness and mass in the planet rises in frequency, taking us into a new earth and a second earth, as Casey called it. The heart chakra in the 60s was the peace and love movement, which eventually raised into the throat of communication and the expanse of information via the internet, which led to the third eye awakening and the greater expansion of light and spiritual awareness. Now we are going online with the higher consciousness as the crown chakra opens, the 7th seal reveals the divine consciousness as we fully access eternal consciousness. Here's a peek at the central pillar. I downloaded and decoded as the final codes 2 Easters ago. As I'm recording this, we come into Easter this weekend. The 7th seal also opened and released more of this material, of which I will be putting into more workshops, videos, and especially the upcoming workshops. In the Gnostic scriptures, Jesus says he will give us the cipher and the seals for accessing the middle way and the regions in the right. He also said in the end times all things shall be revealed.
I channeled the 7th seal symbol in 1996. It, in and of itself, is loaded with information that one can learn to read when you look more deeply at the layers. And then again, in 2016, I completed the rest of the codes and placements of their number sequences. The 7 layers of the information and the frequencies associated with the shapes, patterns, and number series all cause an activation. If someone has never experienced a Kundalini activation, upon sitting on it, they will experience one. Essentially, whatever the next steps of your personal journey are, an activation is appropriate, and it will occur. Some have placed it beneath their pillow while sleeping and have had crown chakra openings. Others put water on it, checked it, ate the water. So follow your intuition.
My own activation and integration with my higher self and even oversoul has been a series of upgrades and integrations that have come over the years from doing the personal work and being exposed to all the Gnostic mystic tools and wisdom. Once you have experienced this, you may also begin to have more deja vu and possibly even anxiety sensations if you're not already experiencing these ascension symptoms. I've been through many phases of this awakening and activations and can assure you it all is very good and will pass. In closing, these are the most amazing times we find ourselves living in. The awakening has mushroomed, and it is believed that we have hit the critical mass point, or the 100th monkey, that caused consciousness to spread like wildfire. Many of us believe we have tipped the scale, and the manifestation of our collective heart desire is happening in the twinkling of an eye. It's exciting to be alive at this time, indeed. Thank you for your interest. You can get your 7th seal activator and my books at the table outside. Remember, the book's an activation of sorts as well, let alone has many gems of wisdom. Also, please sign up for my workshop.